Did you ever have like any type of communication with her when you was in jail? He ever put some money on your books?
Yeah, I think he gave Kyro he gave Kyro like $100 first with the jail.
The long story behind the tension between G Herbo and his old circle.
Like, you getting all this money, you talk about this shit. Like, this what you live.
Lately, the internet's been buzzing with a heated discussion surrounding G Herbo and his old friends from No Limit. A lot of people online are placing heavy blame on G Herbo's homies, especially EBK Juvie, after rumors surfaced that Juvie said he wanted to spit on G Herbo and his child.
Really sit down on this bitch Indian style.
What'd you say, brother? Where we at? We comfortable in paradise, ain't we? This ain't in the trenches, this is paradise, right, brother?
Yeah, RP for me.
The bones on cap. Yo, ain't never did shit, they really beat the out you, sir. And I spit on you. Don't do that. Hey, Migo. Spit on you, spit on your kids. Don't ask me none about no 150 dream team, man. Tap here. 150 dream team.
You doing it?
I see, Bucko.
It's an ugly situation, and many fans have rushed to judgment without understanding the deeper story or the history that led up to this point. People are quick to say things like, EBK Juvie is tripping, or man, G Herbo gave him $100, he should be grateful. But what a lot of folks don't realize is that this whole thing goes way deeper than a few dollars or some social media drama. There's years of resentment, betrayal, and street politics behind it. And to really grasp why someone like Juvie would say something that extreme, you've got to look at the history of the No Limit movement, the relationships between these guys, and the way fame can change everything. Let's rewind for a second. To understand this, you've got to know that G Herbo, also known back in the day as Lil Herb, came up with a group of guys from the east side of Chicago, an area known as Terror Town. The block they represented was around 78th to 79th, between Essex and Kingston.
I wasn't never close with her like that until like the end. Like we got the clicker when he started coming outside. He wasn't ever coming outside. I know he's one of them like mom's got the supper at home type shit. He running home at 7 o'clock. But he was never outside though, so he couldn't ever run home. He just always went home. He never was on the block hanging with us. When I first met him and shit, I asked him what he was. He said, I'm No Limit. I said, how No Limit? I'm really No Limit. You ain't never been on my block. Where you from? I ain't know, bro. You know, I just let him do them. I let him claim what he claimed. I ain't question on it. I was a shorty. I thought he wanted to hang with us. I just let him do that. But I know I didn't grow up with bro. He wasn't an original nigga.
He wasn't thinking about it or overlooked it or like that and came back and started doing it. Would that fix the relationship?
No, that didn't want to fix the relationship because like we lost a lot of so and he was with us when we struggled with these like all the who died, majority of them died. He know them. A lot of he be rapping about, all the older guys, he don't know them. He just throwing them in the rap because then he's all idea on him, but he don't know the older who died for real. He just know since he been around. He don't know Chico, he big. I don't even know if he know Vito for real. His dad probably seen bro once. I don't know who, you know. He know the guys like Cap and all. But it's like a won't look at that no genuine after this 2020.
That part of the city has seen more than its share of violence, and from there came some of the most influential drill rappers and street figures of the last decade. The crew he was part of is called NLMB, No Limit Muskegon Boys, which is a brotherhood that grew out of a mix between the No Limit and Muskegon Boys sets. Among those who came up alongside G Herbo were guys like J-Dog, may his soul rest in peace, No LimitKyro, EBK, Juvie. These were the people who were really in the trenches with him before fame, before the tours, before the record deals. They lived that street life daily, dodging bullets, dealing with loss, surviving war zones. When Herb started making music, his lyrics reflected that reality. He rapped about names like 150 Rock, Black, Fezzoland, Kobe Squad, and Vito City, all names tied to the memory of fallen friends and the life he came from.
Boss man, gang. Ball like on Cody mix, they coming soon, man. Boss man, gang. One block, man. 150 Dream Team, man. All you know, 150 Dream Team. If you don't hit NLMB 150 Dream Team, my name ain't on that shit.
But here's where things started to change. As G Herbo's fame grew, he began to distance himself from that lifestyle, at least publicly. In interviews, he would often say that he no longer wanted to be tied to the streets, that he had moved on to focus on his family and career. To the general public, that sounds like maturity and growth, the kind of evolution we hope to see in artists who make it out of dangerous environments. However, to some of his old homies still stuck in that same struggle, those statements felt like betrayal. They felt like G Herbo was turning his back on them while still profiting from the same life they continue to live every day. No LimitKyro was one of the first to speak out publicly. He accused G Herbo of being fake, of using the stories, names, and images of their neighborhood to build his fame, but refusing to give back or even check in with the people who had risked their lives for him. Kyro pointed out that Herb still raps about the same street tales, about catching hats, a slang term for catching bodies or committing hits, about the wars and losses in their neighborhood, but now does so from a distance, while the ones still in the trenches suffer the consequences. And that's where EBK Juvie's angle comes from.
Where we finna go, bro?
Man, food ain't finna eat yet.
We finna go to Egypt, bro. We in Egypt, bro.
Did you ever have like any type of communication with her when you was in jail? He ever put some money on your book?
Yeah, I think he gave Kyro He gave Kyro like $100 first with the deal. I mean, first went to the joint. Yeah, he gave Kyro like $100 when I first went to the joint. Good luck, and I'm gonna try to send you that back when you unblock me or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, though, he sent me $100.
Yeah, I ain't know that.
See, to understand Juvie's perspective, you've got to go back to the early days when the war in Terrytown was at its peak. Back then, G Herbo was a primary target. He had real enemies, rival gangs like KTS, Lakeside, and Black Mob, which Shoota Shells was part of. The situation was deadly serious. There were times when Herb couldn't even walk to school safely or move around his own neighborhood without being hunted. During those times, EBK Juvie wasn't just some bystander. He was one of the people literally risking his life to make sure Herb could move around safely. Juvie would walk him to school, armed, ready to protect him from any threat. He would escort him home, hang out with him, and basically act as his unofficial security before Herb had any real fame. Juvie and another hitter named MadMax were known to be about that action. They weren't rappers. They were real street soldiers. Now imagine how someone like Juvie might feel watching Herb become a millionaire, hearing him rap about the trenches and the field, while at the same time telling interviewers he's no longer part of that world. From Juvie's point of view, it feels like a slap in the face, like all those years of loyalty, protection, and brotherhood meant nothing. So when G Herbo reportedly gave Juvie a mere $100, people on the internet saw it as generosity. But to Juvie, it probably felt insulting. It was like a reminder of how far apart their lives had grown. To him, Herb is living comfortably off stories that people like Juvie lived, bled, and almost died for. Add to that the emotional pain of losing friends like J-Dog, plus the ongoing legal pressure on G Herbo, with rumors of a federal RICO case and whispers that his name might even be linked to other investigations, including possible ties to incidents involving people like Shooter Shells, and you get a picture of a complicated, messy situation where personal loyalty, money, street politics, and fame all collide. So yes, when EBK Juvie said he'd spit on G Herbo and also spit on Herbo's kid, it shocked people. It sounded cruel and unforgivable, and on the surface it is. But behind that ugly statement is years of frustration, heartbreak, and bitterness from someone who once saw Herb as a brother. It doesn't make it right, not at all, but it helps explain where that level of resentment comes from. You've probably heard of the well-known figure from Terror Town, the ruthless enforcer known as MadMax from NLMB. His name carried weight in the streets. MadMax wasn't just another member, he was a feared shooter, known to have taken out around 11 enemies, ops, just for G Herbo, who also known as Lil Herb. He was well known as G Herbo's hitman. Alongside him was EBK Juvie, another loyal soldier who often stood shoulder to shoulder with Herbo during dangerous times on the east side of Chicago. MadMax's loyalty ran deep. Every move he made, every life he took was for the protection and reputation of NLMB, and especially for G Herbo. When MadMax eventually lost his life, G Herbo was devastated. He cried not just for the loss of a friend, but for someone who had done the unthinkable to keep him safe. Someone who had risked everything and eliminated many of NLMB's biggest threats, including the well-known rapper Shooter Shells, real name Cedron Doles, one of their most dangerous rivals. This background helps explain the frustration and pain that EBK Juvie feels today. For years, he put his life on the line, ducking bullets, facing off against enemies from sets like Lack Mob, Shooter Shells' crew, and Lakeside, all to defend a man he believed in. But when Juvie got locked up, the loyalty he expected in return never came. Instead of support, G Herbo sent him only $100, didn't visit him, and didn't even call. He sent no LimitKyro to deliver the money, which made Juvie feel deeply disrespected. To him, it wasn't about the money, it was about principle. He had risked everything for Herbo, even his own life, and now the same person he protected had turned his back on him. G Herbo, whose real name is Herbert Randall Wright III, often raps about street life, catching hats, catching bodies, and the realities of growing up in Terror Town, 78th, 79th, Essex to Kingston. In interviews, though, he distances himself from that world, saying he wants nothing to do with the life he left behind. That's his right. Growth means change. But it's hard to ignore the people he left struggling behind. Of course, no one expects Herbo to save everyone. But there's a difference between outgrowing your environment and forgetting the people who helped you survive it. Think about it. Juvie, MadMax, and others literally walked him to school with guns, making sure he stayed safe because he was seen as a future voice of NLMB. To turn around and offer them $100 years later feels, honestly, like disrespect. When G Herbo signed with Machine Entertainment Group in 2011, he was only 16. Back then, guys like Juvie, Kyro, and J-Dog believed his success would open doors for the neighborhood, that Herbo's rise meant their sacrifices would mean something. They saw him as a symbol of hope for Terror Town, for the East Side, for 78th and 79th. But as time went on, money and fame seemed to change things. Herbo continued making music that glorified the struggles and losses of NLMB, even naming albums and songs after fallen brothers. Yet in the eyes of those who lived that life with him, he never gave back in the way they expected. He built a career using the pain, loyalty, and even the deaths of his people, but they feel forgotten. Nobody's saying Herbo had to save everyone or bring the whole block with him, but he could have done what King Von did. King Von bought his guys O-Block chains. Perhaps Herb could have bought his guys NLMB No Limit chains, open a store, create jobs, or simply keep them close. That's all they wanted. Recognition, loyalty, and a little love back. As J-Dog once said, "Big Swerve, you made all this money talking about us, about the struggle, about the fallen, but now you don't want anything to do with us."
The whole story broke down, make me want to cry. Like, y'all don't even understand. Like, where's this store at? Where is it at? The stole the green stove bandit. Like you getting all this money, you talk about this shit. Like, this what you live. Fazo, like, this is MB. Y'all getting all this money. It's still bandit cribs and shit that they get built out here. This is terrible. The same crib for 20 years I used to stand on is still bandit. When we shot the fake in the gangway right here on Escadaba. Yeah, you know that. See what I'm saying? You were kin with Alicia? They know who the real is. They know I'm from Fazo land. This is I've been out here for a lot of you little niggas. Y'all bapping. Come on, man. This is the rock dad, bro. Like, look at this rock dad right here. You see this shit? Like, damn, G Herbo, you gonna come? This is your man dad at. Like, no bullshit. Rock dad in front of the store. We can't even go in this bitch. It's got liquor. Do nothing. Like, this is Say Life of Exes, bro. Like, we can't be on our block, bro. Like, I'm just taking y'all around the hood of what's going on and why I'm so, like, threw off when you say he's doing all this. When he can just open stores and like, and we can just come to the store ourselves and spend our money with you and you get the back in. Like, make it make sense. Turn though. Keep on. Show the game. Like, look at our shit. Shit 2 up. This the 9, y'all. This is the stove. Remember the smokehouse, y'all? Right here to the candy stove. This is probably G Herbo was even around when the candy store right here. Oh, yeah. Oh, for the burger. This shit real. 7824. If y'all know what this is, 7824 X's. This what this like kind of like real star that we in there. Like they get out, stop talking about my bitch. Plugging this bitch. What they gonna do? What they gonna get this bitch, get their shit flipped? Y'all know what I do. Stop playing, boy. Tell time y'all know what I do, boy. Stop playing. On Vito Grade, don't act like I ain't never put a spanking on this for myself before. On Vito Grade, no rap, no boy. I ain't need nobody, boy. Playing. On Vito talking about be down. I ain't never try to be down. What you talking about? On Vito. Damn. Okay, we don't see who really down. Vito Grade. All this shit chat, man. Pull up, man. I'm out here. Phone up. Get off this. Ain't no shit. You didn't want to talk for the internet. I'm on the block. Pull up. You got something to say? Come talk to me face to face. Do anything wrong, it might be ass. On Photo Grade, ass, grass.
I'm cutting all ties from that. I don't care what you think about me. You can call me a nigga 100 million times.
Yes.
I don't care. Like, I ain't even, I'm not even gonna feed into it. And you think I ain't had to have them uncomfortable conversations? You think told me I done left the hood and forgot about the hood and and I don't take care of this and I ain't the one bonding out no more and paying for funerals. It's like, how many times I'm supposed to do for that shit? Do that shit. Like, what y'all want nigga to catch a Rico every time you go to jail for a gun charge, a violent charge?
You coming.
I'm the one coming. Like, I'm the concierge or some shit.
Never.
No,
yeah,
like,
never ever.
Yeah, like, and when I understood it that way, I'm like, bro, I gotta just go cold turkey. Like,
and that's the heart of it. This isn't just about money. It's about loyalty, brotherhood, and the pain of being forgotten by the very person you once risked your life for. We need to stop all of this because it's gotten out of hand. People are still getting shot over these drill songs, over this ongoing tension, and it's reaching a point where it's no longer just about music or reputation. It's about real lives being at risk. Let's be honest for a moment. G Herbo allegedly sent NLMB to deliver to EBK Juvie $100. You gotta remember that's one of his hitmen, along with MadMax. Now, for anyone who understands what that really means, that's beyond disrespect. That's outright insult, in a way that doesn't just bruise egos, it sparks conflict. If your crew is functioning like this, if your loyalty and respect are being measured in dollar bills and gestures like this, maybe the smartest move would be to step out of this life for a moment, get a real job, and reevaluate things. Because when your gang is willing to disrespect its own members like that, it's clear that no one is truly untouchable. And here's where things get even more complicated. Some members of NLMB are reportedly siding with G Herbo. The reasons could be financial. Maybe they see a direct or indirect gain, or it could be family connections, cousins sticking together, or other loyalties. This isn't new in the street world, but it's frustratingly ironic. I pointed this out in my previous video when discussing some of these dynamics. For example, in a live clip J-Dog did before his death, he openly paid homage to G Fezzo. He even identified himself as being from Fezzo's land, showing respect for the roots and the legacy of that crew. But the tragedy here is that Fezzo's own brother, well known as G Fabe, along with Big Opp, were the people who confronted J-Dog, and G Fabe ultimately killed him. If you watch the surveillance footage, you can see the dreadlocks, the way the person moves, the stance, all signs pointing to Big Opp. In the video, Big Opp even appears to be grabbing J-Dog's bag. The layers of betrayal here are almost cinematic. People who were supposed to be aligned in some way, even by neighborhood ties, end up on opposite sides in the most violent ways possible. This is the kind of conflict that doesn't just stay on the streets, it escalates to lethal levels. Now, let's look at the bigger picture. G Herbo himself is in serious trouble. From all indications, he could be facing legal consequences on a level that's beyond just street retaliation. The feds are piecing together evidence in what seems like a full-scale RICO-style investigation. Think about how they handled Lil Durk's situation. Methodical, calculated, connecting dots that might not even seem related on the surface. Herbo may even be facing charges connected to murder for hire. There are reports that he allegedly arranged payments to MadMax to target shooter shells from Black Mob, putting thousands of dollars on the line to carry out the hit. If this is true, it's not just dangerous, it's legally catastrophic. Honestly, if I were in Herbo's position, I'd already be laying low somewhere far away. I'm talking about places like Cuba, Jamaica, parts of South America, Egypt, or even Africa. Somewhere to remove yourself from immediate danger and give the legal and street pressures a chance to cool down. No LimitKyro, reportedly, already took some NLMB guys to Egypt, and this happened while he and Herbo were beefing. During that time, Kyro was voicing the same frustrations. That Herbo talks tough, but it's their guys who are getting shot, caught in the crossfire, while all the dangerous work happens on the ground. He named some of the rival crews: KTS, Cutthroat, Pocket Town, Lakeside, and Black Mob. Black Mob has since relocated to Atlanta, effectively ceding control of their old territories, which now gives Shorty Mob influence over those areas. This is a constant reminder of how fast things shift in this world. Territories, alliances, respect, and even lives can be lost in the blink of an eye. This life doesn't forgive mistakes. Once you step in, the mantra is clear: there's no way out. And every action has consequences that ripple far beyond the individuals directly involved. But it's also true that G Herbo still has a network of people backing him. Big Opp and Lil Wet are two names that come up consistently. G Fave, G Fezzo's brother, adds another layer of complexity to the whole situation. That means loyalty is tangled with family, legacy, and money, all of which complicates the dynamics of No Limit even further. Right now, No Limit is essentially a war zone from within. There's a civil war brewing, factions splitting, and friends turning on friends. It's sad, but it's real. The crew is fractured, and internal divisions are now as dangerous as any outside threat. Shotty Mob, No Limit, Muskegon Boys, Backdoor, all these factions are now vulnerable to betrayal from within. When members start leaking information, sharing locations, or siding with rival crews, it's not just about territory anymore. It's about lives. Innocent people, grandmothers, uncles, sisters, mothers, could end up paying the price for decisions made in these streets. The potential for tragedy is massive, and it's heartbreaking to watch. This isn't just another story about rappers or gangs. It's a vivid illustration of how quickly loyalty can shift, how money can corrupt, and how violence escalates in ways that no one can control. We're talking about people losing their lives over respect, reputation, and perceived slights, over things that, on the surface, might seem minor. The reality is harsh. When your world is built on fear, money, and loyalty, a single misstep can ignite a chain reaction with deadly consequences. Every piece of this story, the payments, the disrespect, the murders, the internal divisions, the rivalries, forms a complex web that's almost impossible to navigate safely. And in the middle of all this is G Herbo, facing legal and street pressures that could consume him if he doesn't act fast. If he survives this, it will be a testament to both luck and strategy, because the landscape he's in is as dangerous as it gets. The lessons here are clear. Respect is fragile, alliances are temporary, and once the cycle of violence begins, it rarely stops. The streets don't forgive, and the law doesn't wait. And while music and reputation might start the story, it's the actions, the betrayals, and the escalation that determine who survives and who doesn't. Right now, this situation is far from over, and the fallout could be catastrophic, not just for the people directly involved, but for everyone connected to them, whether by blood, friendship, or neighborhood ties. At the end of the day, this whole situation is tragic. It's what happens when real street ties get mixed with fame, success, and the entertainment industry. The same loyalty that once kept people alive becomes a source of conflict when one of them makes it out. G Herbo, born Herbert Randall Wright, might be facing karma in different ways, from legal troubles to personal rifts, but it's clear that the pain runs deep on all sides. When I first found out about Big Opp, who also known as No Limit Pharaoh, I honestly thought he was some seasoned NLMB veteran. One of those guys who's been around for years, but somehow stayed off social media until recently. Years he started to get busy on the streets and killing people and gained the title of NLMB Top Killer. I assumed he was ancient, like someone who'd been part of the scene since Lil Herbo first came up. But then I realized I was completely wrong. He's actually really young. Big Opp is only 19 at the time I first heard about him, which blew my mind. That wasn't super long ago, but it still feels like some time has passed. Right now, he's probably somewhere between 20 and 23 years old, most likely 21 or 22. I remember clearly that about 9 months ago, he turned 21, sometime around January 12, 2025, I think. I might be slightly off on the month, but that's roughly the time frame. If you go by his appearance, you'd never guess. He easily looks like he's at least 30. There's a maturity, a presence in the way he carries himself that makes him look older than he really is. Big Opp's father was Boss Blizz. Rest in peace to Boss Blizz. May he be remembered. Boss Blizz was a significant figure in the streets, and having him as a father gave Big Opp a certain weight in the community from the start. G Pharaoh is an older member, someone who's been involved for a while. No Limit Pharaoh, which was the name Big Opp used earlier in his career, is younger and represents a newer wave. He eventually switched from No Limit Pharaoh to Big Opp, which helped cement his new identity and presence in the streets. Bloodhound and NLMB aren't as close to Big Opp as O-Block was, which shows the generational divide and shifting alliances. G Pharaoh is also Fezzo's younger brother. Last year, he was seen with STL during a party, a reminder of how connected yet fragmented these crews can be. Relationships, alliances, and loyalties shift constantly, and sometimes it's hard to tell who's close to who. When it comes to NLMB and O-Block, things aren't exactly smooth. The tension has been rising, in part because of Jada Boys. It's not that every member is at odds. Some still maintain mutual respect, but there are definite fractures. Certain members don't get along, and that friction has grown over time. These aren't just minor disagreements. They're ongoing tensions that could have real consequences. In short, Big Opp is young, but carries the weight of history, legacy, and revenge on his shoulders. His presence commands attention, his past actions demand respect, and his connections, family, crew, and generational ties shape both his reputation and the current landscape of NLMB and O-Block relations. From the time he first entered the scene as No Limit Pharaoh to now, his evolution into Big Opp reflects both personal growth and the realities of the streets. Survival, loyalty, and making a name for yourself while navigating a world full of danger and shifting alliances. Money, loyalty, and ego have always played a role in these kinds of fallouts. What started as brotherhood in Terrortown has turned into bitterness, regret, and betrayal. And unfortunately, in this world, there's rarely a peaceful ending to stories like these. There are many lessons we can draw from this story. First lesson: loyalty is fragile, especially when success enters the equation. The story of G Herbo and his old circle highlights how loyalty can be extremely fragile, particularly when one person achieves fame or financial success. EBK, Juvie, and MadMax literally risked their lives to protect G Herbo during some of the deadliest times in Terrortown. They weren't just friends, they were guardians, security, and street soldiers, putting themselves in harm's way to ensure Herbo could survive and eventually thrive. However, when G Herbo distanced himself from the streets, focused on his career, and offered minimal acknowledgement, like sending only $100 to Juvie, it was perceived as a betrayal. For Juvie, loyalty was not measured in casual gestures or social media shoutouts. It was about recognition, respect, and tangible support for years of sacrifice. This teaches us that loyalty isn't static. When circumstances change, even the deepest bonds can be tested. Wealth, fame, and opportunity often shift power dynamics, and without acknowledgement of shared history, loyalty can crumble, leaving relationships strained or broken. Second lesson, growth and change can cause resentment. As G Herbo's career progressed, he began publicly distancing himself from the streets and the violence of his past. He spoke about focusing on family, personal growth, and moving away from the dangerous lifestyle he once lived. To outsiders, this is an example of maturity and evolution, a hopeful narrative of someone escaping the hardships of their environment. Yet, for those still immersed in that same world, like Juvie and other old associates, Herbo's statements felt like abandonment. What one person sees as growth, another sees as betrayal. Those who risked their lives for him were still facing the harsh realities of street life, while Herbo was building a career that glorified that same struggle from a distance. The lesson here is that personal evolution often has unintended consequences. Even positive change can alienate people who remain rooted in old dynamics. Growth requires communication, empathy, and thoughtful recognition of those who supported you during harder times. Otherwise, what appears as progress can be interpreted as turning one's back on the very people who once mattered most. Third lesson, money doesn't solve emotional or historical debt. Many fans judge G Herbo's $100 gesture as a generous act, but within the context of years of loyalty, risk, and sacrifice, it came across as insulting to EBK Juvie. Money, in this sense, cannot compensate for years of shared danger, emotional investment, and brotherhood. Juvie's frustration was less about the amount and more about the principle, the minimal acknowledgement of all the risks he took and the loyalty he displayed. The deeper message is that financial transactions cannot replace recognition, gratitude, and emotional support. True respect is earned through meaningful actions that reflect understanding and appreciation of shared history, not just token gestures that appear generous on the surface. Fourth lesson, fame amplifies tensions and exposes betrayals. Fame is a magnifying glass for relationships and conflicts. As G Herbo rose to stardom, the spotlight amplified tensions with his former friends. What might have remained private grievances in another context became public disputes, analyzed and judged by fans and outsiders who lacked the full historical perspective. The situation demonstrates how wealth and visibility can distort relationships. Old allies feel betrayed when they perceive success as abandonment, while outsiders may misinterpret gestures or intentions. The lesson is that fame comes with an obligation to manage not only your public image, but also your private relationships. Neglecting either can escalate minor tensions into explosive conflicts. Fifth lesson, violence and revenge escalate quickly. The history of NLMB illustrates how small slights or perceived betrayals can escalate into cycles of violence. MadMax and Juvie risked everything for G Herbo, while Big Opp avenged his father's death, cementing reputations and escalating tensions in the streets. This story teaches that in high-stakes environments, whether literal street life or metaphorical streets like competitive workplaces, unaddressed grievances can spiral. One act of disrespect, if ignored or mishandled, can set off a chain reaction with consequences far beyond the original conflict. Awareness, communication, and strategic conflict resolution are crucial to preventing escalation. Sixth lesson, history and context matter. The conflict is often misunderstood by outsiders who see actions in isolation. For example, why is Juvie mad over $100 seems trivial until you understand the years of loyalty, protection, and risk he invested in G Herbo's survival. This teaches us that human behavior is rarely simple. Context, personal history, shared experiences, sacrifices made, and past trauma is essential to understanding motivations. Judging actions without context can lead to shallow conclusions and exacerbate misunderstandings. Empathy requires a deep appreciation of someone else's lived experiences. 7th lesson, generational and alliance shifts complicate relationships. The story introduces figures like Big Opp, who are young but carry the weight of legacy, revenge, and reputation. Crews evolve, new members rise, and alliances shift based on family ties, generational differences, and individual ambitions. This shows that relationships are dynamic. Bonds formed in one era may not hold in another, especially as younger generations interpret loyalty, respect, and opportunity differently. Awareness of these shifts is crucial to navigating complex social networks and avoiding unexpected conflicts. 8th lesson, survival requires strategic thinking. G Herbo is simultaneously navigating street pressures and potential legal consequences, showing that survival isn't just about bravery, it's about strategy, foresight, and risk management. The wrong move in either sphere could be catastrophic. The broader lesson here applies to life beyond the streets. Success and safety often depend on strategic planning, understanding the environment, and anticipating consequences. Talent and courage alone are rarely enough. Careful thought and deliberate action are essential to long-term survival and stability. 9th lesson, brotherhood and shared struggle are not guarantees of mutual support. Even relationships forged in the most dangerous life or death circumstances can fracture under new pressures. Shared history does not automatically ensure continued loyalty or mutual support. This story underscores the importance of nurturing relationships actively. Even bonds formed under extreme conditions require recognition, gratitude, and engagement to maintain their strength. Without consistent effort, even the strongest brotherhoods can erode. 10th lesson, consequences ripple beyond individuals. Every decision in this story, payments, alliances, betrayals, impacts not only those directly involved, but entire communities. Innocent people, from family members to neighbors, can become collateral damage in disputes over respect, power, or revenge. This teaches us that actions are rarely isolated. Whether in street life, workplaces, or personal relationships, decisions can have far-reaching effects. Thinking beyond immediate self-interest and considering the broader consequences of one's choices is essential for ethical and practical living. My final thought. The story of Herbo and NLMB is a powerful, tragic illustration of how loyalty, love, ambition, and survival intersect in complex and often painful ways. It reminds us that success can create distance between people, that growth can unintentionally alienate those who matter most, and that neglecting loyalty and respect has consequences that ripple far beyond the immediate circle. Ultimately, the lessons from this story are universal. Empathy, recognition, communication, and strategic thinking are vital to sustaining relationships and navigating life's challenges. While not everyone faces bullets or street wars, the emotional dynamics, loyalty, trust, and respect are present in every sphere of human interaction. Understanding these lessons can help anyone avoid unnecessary conflict, preserve meaningful bonds, and make choices that honor both the past and the future.